What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bobby's Big Board once again. Today we're breaking down my top 20 rookie wide receivers following the 2025 NFL Draft, and let me tell you, this class has some serious heat. From elite first rounders to deep sleepers with massive upside, I'll walk you through each tier from F to S and give you landing spot analysis, fantasy impact, and exactly where I draft them in your rookie drafts. Whether you're grinding tape like me or just trying to win your league, this is the video for you. You do not want to skip it. Let's get right into it. Landing here in my F tier is Savion Williams, wide receiver out of TCU, heading to the Green Bay Packers in the third round. Honestly, I don't understand the pick. He's a big-bodied, fast super athlete, but he is a major project. Struggles with catching and route running. Plus, the wide receiver room with the Packers is already crowded, especially after drafting Matthew Golden in the first round. There's just no clear path for early playing time, and I wouldn't consider drafting him any earlier than the late third in your rookie drafts. He's a pure upside stash at best. Also landing here in my F tier is Jalen Lane, wide receiver out of Virginia Tech, taken by the Washington Commanders in the fourth round. Lane is a solid yak threat and can be dangerous on screens, but the Commanders already have Deebo Samuel filling that role right now. Realistically, Lane projects more as a return specialist early on. He had minimal production in college, and outside of an injury, I don't see much fantasy value here. I wouldn't consider drafting him before the fourth round in your rookie drafts. Landing here in my D tier is Dante Thornton Jr., wide receiver out of Tennessee, taken by the Raiders in the fourth round. I was a little surprised by the draft capital. I expected him to go much later, but the Raiders clearly bought into his upside. At 6'5", 205 pounds with 4.3 speed, Thornton has the raw tools you dream about. That said, he's an extremely raw prospect. Limited production, basic route tree, and inconsistent ball skills show up all over his tape. The good news? The Raiders' wide receiver depth chart is thin, so there's a real chance he sees the field early while he develops. If you're chasing upside, I'd consider picking him in the mid to late third round in your rookie drafts, but just know you're buying a long-term project. Landing here in my D tier is Arian Smith, wide receiver out of Georgia, taken by the New York Jets in the fourth round. Smith is a classic track speedster. He's got blazing speed, but comes with very limited production and a frustrating history of drops on film. He's mostly a deep route guy at this point, and I don't see him overtaking Allen Lazard as the Jets' deep threat anytime soon. Best case, he probably carves out a return role early on. That said, the Jets' depth chart is thin at receiver, and the fourth round draft capital gives him a slight shot to earn reps. I'd be willing to take a chance in the mid to late third round of your rookie drafts if you're chasing upside. Landing here in my D tier is Chimere DK, wide receiver out of Florida, taken by the Tennessee Titans in the fourth round. I thought the Titans would target a bigger wide receiver earlier, so seeing them grab a sixth-year senior with minimal production was a bit confusing. On film, DK shows up as a pure speedster, very similar to Arian Smith, just a little bit taller, but he offers very little yak ability. Realistically, he's likely headed for a special teams role early on. That said, the Titans wide receiver depth chart is thin behind Calvin Ridley, so he might carve out some early depth value. I'd only consider him mid to late third round as a dart throw in rookie drafts, nothing earlier than that though. Landing here at the top of my D tier is Torrey Horton, receiver out of Colorado State, taken by the Seahawks in the fifth round. He was actually the first wide receiver they selected, which is interesting considering how open that receiving room is outside of JSN and Cooper Kupp, who's actually aging and injury prone. I really liked Horton's yak ability, speed, and occasional jump ball flashes on film. But he's coming off a major knee injury, and with Sam Darnold at quarterback, it's hard to project steady production early on. Still, the path to playing time is there, so I'd consider him an early to mid-third round rookie pick if you're looking for some upside. Kicking off my C tier is Isaac Tisla, wide receiver out of Arkansas, landing with the Detroit Lions in the third round. I was honestly surprised by how high he went, which tells me the Lions loved his character and mindset probably. He probably crushed the interview process and embodies that gritty, hard-nosed mentality Dan Campbell wants. Physically, TeSlaa is a freak athlete, big, fast, and clearly toolsy enough, but he's a raw receiver with limited college production. He's headed to a good offense, but one that already features Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, which likely caps him as the wide receiver 3 at best in the short term. Also, the departure of Ben Johnson could cause a step back in the overall offensive efficiency. I think TeSlaa is an upside stash, and I'd consider him in the early to mid-third round of rookie drafts. Next up in my C tier is Elic Ayomanor, wide receiver out of Stanford, taken by the Tennessee Titans in the 4th round. I was actually pretty high on Ayomanor coming into the draft. He was in my top 10 wide receivers, so I was a bit surprised to see him fall this far. What's even more surprising is he was the 2nd wide receiver drafted by the Titans after Shamir DK, which definitely muddles his path to early production. That said, I still believe in the talent. He's a strong route runner with real catch and traffic ability, and I think he has a legitimate shot to start at the X position, especially if they move Calvin Ridley to the Z. The wide receiver room behind Ridley is thin, and while Cam Ward is still an unknown, if he pans out, Ayomanor could carve out a nice role and maybe even grow into their future wide receiver 1. I'd take a shot on him in the late 2nd to early 3rd round of rookie drafts. I prefer him to DK long term. Up next in my C tier is Jaden Higgins, wide receiver out of Iowa State, taken in the early 2nd round by the Houston Texans. Now listen, a lot of people are higher on Higgins than I am, and while that draft capital is strong, I've got my concerns. Initially, I liked the landing spot and thought he might fill a slot role that the Texans needed, but a later pick suggests he'll be used more on the outside, which I think really limits him. He's also sitting behind Nico Collins, so his ceiling might be capped unless Collins moves on or gets hurt. I'd say he's worth a mid-2nd round pick in rookie drafts, but I personally wouldn't take him over some other wide receivers in that range. Also in my C tier is Jalen Noel, the other wide receiver out of Iowa State, also landing with the Houston Texans, but this time in the 3rd round. Now, this pick actually made me dislike the Higgins landing spot even more because I believe Noel will be the one playing in the slot, which is where I thought Higgins might fit. I know it's a bit of a bold take, but I actually think Noel will outproduce Higgins over their rookie contracts if he stays healthy. Noel brings quickness, shiftiness, and clean route running, and those traits will make him a natural fit in that slot role. He's still behind Nico Collins on the target totem pole, but I do think his role will be more consistent and better utilized than Higgins on the outside. I'd consider him a mid to late 2nd round pick in rookie drafts. He's one of my sneakier value plays this year. Kicking off my B tier is my pre-draft wide receiver 2, Luther Burden III out of Missouri, landing in the early 2nd round to the Chicago Bears. I absolutely love Burden's yak ability. He's one of the most explosive and talented receivers in this class, but the landing spot really tempers expectations for me. That offense is now extremely crowded with DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, and their 1st round tight end pick in Colston Loveland, not to mention Burden himself. With that much firepower, I expect the Bears to lean into 12 personnel, which might leave Burden on the outside looking in. Even when he does get on the field, I'm not sure where he lines up. You'd assume the slot, but DJ Moore is very effective there too. The draft capital is great, but unless DJ moves on in the next year or two, which I do expect, I will consistently expect a problem in terms of production from Burden early on. I'd still be happy taking him in the early to mid-2nd round of rookie drafts based on the talent and the long-term upside. Next up in my B tier is Trey Harris, wide receiver out of Ole Miss, who landed in the 2nd round with the Los Angeles Chargers. I can't deny the strong draft capital or the massive need at the X position in this offense. On paper, it makes a ton of sense, but for fantasy purposes, I think this is more of a real-life football pick than a fantasy-friendly one. X receivers consistently underperform in fantasy, and with Jim Harbaugh running a ground-heavy system, the volume just might not be there. I do love Harris's jump ball ability and his strong hands, but his limited route tree, mostly vertical concepts, could make him more one-dimensional in the pros. If you believe in the upside and the potential for chemistry with Justin Herbert, I think he's worth an early to mid-2nd round pick in rookie drafts. Next up in my B tier is my pre-draft wide receiver 3, Jalen Royals out of Utah State, who landed with my Kansas City Chiefs in the 4th round. Now I know the wide receiver room looks crowded on paper with Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice, but I think Royals is walking into a golden opportunity. Rashee Rice is expected to miss time due to a suspension and is starting the season on IR, which opens up immediate snaps, especially in the slot where I expect Royals to start from day one. If Mahomes builds trust with him early, I think Royals could get peppered with targets just like we've seen from other slot weapons in this offense. His yak ability and speed after the catch pop off the screen, and I believe his skill set will translate extremely well to the NFL. I'd be targeting him in the early to mid-second round in rookie drafts, and since he's not getting much buzz right now, you might be able to steal him later. Up next in my B tier is Pat Bryant, wide receiver out of Illinois, taken in the 3rd round by the Denver Broncos. I really liked what I saw from Bryant on film. His yak ability and jump ball skills really stood out. He's not super explosive off the line, but once he gets moving, he's got that burner style build-up speed, and I think he's being groomed as the long-term replacement for Courtland Sutton. Early on, I expect him to get slot snaps, which is a great way to hide some of his weaknesses like press coverage issues and limited acceleration. This offense has really started clicking since Bo Nix and Sean Payton teamed up, and I think Bryant fits the mold as a chain-moving physical target. I'd be happy grabbing him in the early to mid-second round of rookie drafts, especially since he could slide a bit due to low buzz, but the landing spot is sneaky good. Kicking off my A tier is Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas, landing in the 1st round with the Green Bay Packers. Now, I'll be honest, I wasn't as high on Golden coming into the draft as the consensus was, but I had to bump him up based on the 1st round draft capital. Golden is a guy who can do a little bit of everything well, but I don't think he has a single elite trait that truly sets him apart. And while the draft capital is strong, the landing spot leaves a lot to be desired. The Packers' wide receiver room is already crowded with Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, and Tucker Kraft, and it looks like Golden is being groomed to play the X position, likely replacing Christian Watson long term, a role that I don't love for him in fantasy. Yes, Matt LaFleur is a strong offensive mind and Jordan Love is more than capable, but this feels like a spot where Golden could get lost in the rotation early on. I think most will draft him in the mid to late 1st round, but personally, I'd feel better grabbing him around the 203 range in rookie drafts. Up next in my A tier is one of my biggest sleepers in this class, Kyle Williams out of Washington State, landing with the New England Patriots in the 3rd round. This guy was projected to go late day 3, so the fact that he goes day 2 tells me the Patriots saw exactly what I saw, a true difference maker. Let's be real, the wide receiver room in New England is wide open. He's competing with names like Jalen Polk, Pop Douglas, and Kayshon Boutte. No disrespect, but Kyle Williams is more talented than any of them, and I could easily see him emerge as the wide receiver 1 once Stephon Diggs moves on. At worst, he's the screen and yak weapon that can line up in the slot or the Z, but he has the release package and deep speed to stretch the field and win after the catch. He's explosive, he's versatile, and the path to volume is wide open. I wouldn't let him fall past the mid-second round in rookie drafts, and honestly, if I knew my leagues were high on him too, I'd be comfortable grabbing him in the late 1st round. Next up in my A tier is Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State, landing in the 1st round with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Egbuka is just one of those guys who's going to be in the league for a long time. He's a great leader, a high-character teammate, and also happens to be incredibly talented. He's a route technician, one of the cleanest separators in this class, with strong, reliable hands and a knack for getting open at all levels. While he's not a big-time yak guy, he has enough long speed to break away if given some space. He lands in a spot where he'll likely start right away in the slot, but with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin still in place, he's probably going to be the wide receiver 3 to start his career, which does cap his early fantasy ceiling a bit. That said, the offense is clicking under Baker Mayfield, and there's a path to real production even in a crowded room. I think Egbuka is a mid to late 1st round pick in rookie drafts, though I'm personally leaning more towards the late 1st, just based on the year 1 target share. Up next in my A tier is Jack Besh out of TCU, landing in the second round to the Las Vegas Raiders, and this might be one of the best landing spots in the entire class. The Raiders wide receiver room is thin, and Besh is going to step in right away as a starter, likely in the X or Z, with a chance to be the wide receiver 1 from day 1. I was already high on him. I had him as my wide receiver 5 pre-draft, but after this landing spot, he's moved up to my wide receiver 3 overall. Besh brings a fantastic mix of size, physicality, and route running polish that I think will translate instantly. He's a guy that wins in contested catch situations, moves the chains, and can make an impact both over the middle and vertically. I would be taking him in the late first round of rookie drafts, no question, and honestly, if he slips into the second, you need to trade up and get him. Do not hesitate. Kicking off my S tier is one of my 2 elite wide receivers, Teteroa McMillan out of Arizona, taken by the Carolina Panthers in the early first round. He was my wide receiver 1 overall pre-draft, tied at the top with my other S tier wide receiver, and that's because of his rare combination of size, yak ability, and dominant jump ball skills. The landing spot with Carolina is absolutely elite. He's expected to start immediately in the slot, which is a huge thing for his fantasy production, and sets him up to be a PPR machine right out of the gate. The depth chart isn't much of an obstacle either. Xavier Legette has underwhelmed, Jalen Coker will likely be pushed aside, and Adam Thielen, while still solid, is aging and has had durability concerns. Everything is lined up for Tet to produce year 1, and with his talent profile, he could explode if the Panthers offense takes a step forward. He shouldn't fall past the 107 in your rookie drafts, and honestly, I'd be fine grabbing him even a few spots earlier if you need a future wide receiver 1 anchor. Closing out my S tier and claiming the title of my overall wide receiver 1 in this class is Travis Hunter out of Colorado, taken second overall by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hunter is just different. On film, he has had the best ball skills I've ever seen, period. His ability to track, high point, and snatch the ball is already NFL elite. Sure, he has some route running inconsistencies, but when you combine his athleticism, twitch, and natural receiving instincts, you're looking at a guy who could be legitimately a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL very quickly. Yes, he's technically behind Brian Thomas Jr., who will likely be the alpha wide receiver 1, but Hunter's versatility and explosive upside will absolutely carve him out a high volume role in this offense. The big question pre-draft was how much he'd actually play on offense, and I said it then. If he does play on offense consistently, he's my wide receiver 1, period. In Jacksonville, I fully believe that they will use him heavily on the offensive side, and that's why he now sits at the very top of my rankings. I wouldn't let him fall past the 105 in rookie drafts. If you believe he's going to be featured on the offense, he must be a must-draft elite asset with league-winning upside. And that's going to wrap up my top 20 rookie wide receiver rankings post-NFL draft. Let me know in the comments, who do you think I'm too high on? Who did I disrespect? I want all the smoke with you guys. If you enjoyed the breakdowns, hit that like button and subscribe for more rookie rankings, film review, and fantasy strategy. Also, don't forget to join the Bobby's Big Board Discord, where we're breaking down draft takes, trades, and rookies 24/7. Appreciate you guys watching as always, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.
Hey.